here's the news. So on Friday, I downloaded an app so I can watch Sister Wives. Um,
Nice.
so so I binge watched the first season. And the unfortunate part about it, and it's only because it's trash TV, but it's fun. Like it's my guilty pleasure show. My living room TV doesn't have the app. So I can only watch it in my bedroom. And I just sit there binge watching Sister Wives in my bedroom, eating all of my snacks. And I'm like, if this isn't just like the saddest moment, because I will only binge watch shows. That's what I love to do. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I feel better when I'm in my living room binge watching shows because I'm not just like laying in my bed for 16 hours. What are you gonna do? So but, but I watched season one. So I watched the two most recent episodes and then I watched the whole first season. And what was funny is I had just started watching tonight's episode when you were like, oh yeah, I have to wait until after 9 so I can watch it. And I was like, I'm watching it now, but I can't tell her I'm watching it now because then she'll know. But from season one, so like the only comment that I have, and it's really interesting watching them together because they're so different from
Right.
season one to season 15. And you don't see that now because you're used to the progression. But I was watching them, I was like, oh my gosh, these are like two completely separate families.
Yeah.
Um, but the only like real comment that I had was just like the 11-day honeymoon. So I don't know what your thoughts are on it, but like I thought 11 days was too long for Robin's honeymoon.
Robin's honeymoon. Absolutely never like with as many kids as he has and other wives at that point. I think that was way too long because
Yeah.
he's like keeping that many people without, the other foundation of their family. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that was very,
I
I mean,
thought it was
it's
so
rumored that
selfish.
Robin, is the favorite, but I mean, she's the newest. And I get that they probably wanted time alone because, it's not like with the first wife where it's before you even have children, you know. And so, I mean, I kind of get that, but I feel like it was way too long.
They didn't
Like
have children
7 days
until
max.
all three wives. So that was something I didn't realize that they didn't start having children until all three wives were in, and then they started having their first kids.
So yeah, all the
Um,
wives then kind
yeah,
of got that alone time with him to get to know him. Before
yeah. So
they
that's what,
kids around. Cats, for that
yeah.
cats.
So that's what they were saying. They were like, she needed it because she never got that alone time to begin with. But I was like, in terms of just like you rotate on your schedule, I was like, so you're essentially just like leaving your other wives. They're losing three different times with you.
Yeah.
Because even if you're doing it four, I mean, yeah, they're losing three days of their time with
Right.
you. And
And
I
that's a lot.
hated that.
I'm gonna back up a little bit. Like I'm too close. There. A little bit better now. It was like,
But yeah, that was my only thought from season one. And then I did have some, and I take notes because I never remember things. Um, but yeah, I was watching season 15 and it was just really interesting. And especially when they were talking about plural marriage becoming legal. And I was curious about your thoughts, because we were talking about how poly relationships are like more prevalent and stuff like that. So like I don't see why plural marriage shouldn't be legal. And it was just such a crazy thing.
I think that some of the disputes against it, aside from people who are just prejudiced against that lifestyle, but I think it has to do with taxes and who you can claim and like health insurance.
Okay.
Because, like, let's imagine this guy's the only one who works.
Mhm.
Maybe none of
Oh,
them
yeah.
work, and he has four wives plus all those children. And let's say he works at some factory, and so he's covering himself and his family, and he has all these wives. Like, can you imagine how much that insurance company like? That's
Yeah.
a lot.
That's got to be a nightmare.
Yeah, so I think that and tax reasons is the main reason
Okay.
that they're not legalizing it. But I definitely like I can kind of understand that. But as far as that goes, like I'm even Like I'm in support of marriage just being between people and you don't even apply that to your taxes anyways. Like
Yeah.
I would be fine with that. Like I would be fine with no marriages being legally viewed as a law binding marriage. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Where
I've seen that.
and as far as like who your like health person is, then you just sign a paper and say this is the person that I want in charge of my health care. And like it wouldn't even matter, like if you're in the hospital and can't make
Yeah.
decisions for yourself. Like to me, that wouldn't even matter. I don't even think you would have to be someone's spouse to do that. Because like in your case where you're not married, like let's say both of your parents were gone or unable to, make choices for you. You don't have any siblings or something, like you should be able to appoint a friend of yours to make those choices for you. Like you
Well,
should.
I know, so I have power of attorney for my mom. And so I think you can do that, but you have to go through that legal process of like the power of attorney instead of just like putting on a form like,
Right.
this is my person who's approved for this, which there's so many hoops. And like with marriage in general, with like how many hoops, and if like your marriage doesn't work, instead of just being like, yes, we're just going to separate, it's a whole process and it's different in every single
Right.
state. Um, yeah, and I just thought it was cool. I was like, oh, I hope that they do legalize it because that would be nice, especially with how many people
Yeah.
are like doing the plural marriage. But just was so wild to me too that it's a felony. And I think Christine said in one of the episodes, yeah, it's a felony. She was
Yeah,
like,
that's crazy.
she was like, murder is a felony. So I can go to jail for being married to my husband and I can be next to somebody who murdered somebody. And you're
Right.
like, yes, like that's
That's
wild.
yeah, that's insane. Just over being married to someone. Like that's so stupid.
Mhm.
Like yeah, if it's like a child bride, obviously
Yeah,
it's not
yeah.
okay. Like that's just not okay, period. But which actually that brings in a whole new thing. So there are still laws on the books where like
I've seen as low as 13, you can get married in some states.
yeah, as long as the parents consent, you can get married. I was watching a documentary on Netflix. You're gonna have to watch it if you haven't watched it. I can't remember what it's called, but it's about girls who are raped when they're underage. And then in order to keep the guy from going to prison, the parents just have him marry him. So they just marry their underage victim of rape child to the rapist to keep from having to for the publicity and
Yeah,
from being in the news and all that kind of shit. Or because she got pregnant, and
yeah, the
blows
family
my
honor code and
mind. What
whatnot.
kind of judge is like, yeah, this is a good situation? Like
Yeah, I
the
can't.
older guy has gotten this child pregnant, and so we're going to have them get married so he doesn't get rape charges. Like I would be like, all right, well now that he's admitted it, you're going to fucking jail. Like what the hell? Like it blows my mind.
I mean, think of yourself at 13. I mean, when I was 13, I don't know if that's either late middle school or early high school, depending on when your birthday is,
Junior
I think.
high.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's junior high, freshman year of high school. Can you even imagine being married at that age? That's
No.
crazy. You can't drive a car. I didn't even have a cell phone until I was 14. Like, I mean, now, 7-year-olds have cell phones, but just like, it's so crazy that you can, if your parents are just like, yeah, go ahead and marry this full-blown adult. I don't see anything wrong with this.
One of the girls on the show, she's an older woman now, and she was from Florida, and she was like 9 or 10 when the raping started. She had her first baby at 11. Her parents made her marry him, and he was like the youth pastor or something of the church. And like her dad was either the pastor or deacon or some crap like that. And I'm like, go figure. Like,
Yeah.
of course. So they just had them get married. And then she ended up, by the time she was like 18, she had multiple children by the time she was 18.
Of course. Well, yeah, because like, you don't know any better.
It's terrible. It's
yeah,
just,
I hate seeing
anyone
that.
should get married under the age of 18.
No, I don't think so
Serve in the
either.
armed forces, you should not be able to get married. That's why that I do that.
And to be honest, I would even be fine if it was a little bit older. Because like I have seen people at 18 where like you get married at 18 because you can, and then you're divorced by 19, 22, 24, and you're just starting your life over, and then you're like divorced, and you're just like,
I think there should
Okay.
be like a 6 month or 12-month waiting period from the time you file for a marriage license until you
Yeah.
get married. That's just,
3 days, I'm pretty sure is what it is right now. I think it's three
yeah,
days you have to wait.
yeah, you should have to wait. And I feel that way like even about guns too.
Yeah.
Like we own guns. I don't keep any in my possession because I've had mental health issues. So they're all kept in a safe that I don't have a key or what. I don't even know if it's a like like of the combination or if it's a key. Like I don't even know. That's like to tell you I don't even get into it. Like if I'm gonna go shoot guns, like he gets them out, we go do it. But like I think that I'm totally for having to wait 30 days from the time you apply to get a gun. Like, if you are just wanting a gun for leisure or hunting, like, when the hunting seasons are. So, I
Yeah,
mean,
there's
there's
no reason to like have the rush
need that
order.
fast. And like, I feel because so many murders are a spontaneous crime of passion.
Yeah.
Let's say you catch your spouse in the middle of cheating on you, like you walk in and they're in the middle of cheating on you. You go buy a gun, come back, and you kill both of them or go chase them both down, where if you had to wait 30 days by then, you may be like, you know what? Fuck this person. I'm packing my shit and getting the hell out. And then instead of getting the hell out to a different place and having to go to prison, you're just able to just move out and live your life.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. That cooling off period is
yeah,
crucial. Well, there was actually, I don't know if you saw.
like everyone loses their cool from time to time.
Yeah. Well, there was an article today that I saw that 3 people were killed in a gun store because the person that walked in was asked to unload their gun, and he basically was like, "Fuck you," and he shot all the people in there. Yeah.
I feel like I saw that, but didn't click on the link.
I saw it a couple times. I didn't read the full article, and so it's internet. You don't know what is true and what isn't. But I saw that and I was like, why, why,
Like
why?
like I've got mental issues, but not like that. Like if someone's like, you have to empty the clip, I'd be like, oh, I didn't even realize I still had it then.
Yeah,
Which was shitty on me. I wouldn't even know that I still had ammo. But I mean, I would be like, I'm so sorry. I have no reason to have a loaded gun in here. Like there's no reason.
that's exactly it. It's like if you're going into the gun store, if you're going to like the shooting range part of it, unload it, put it back in. It's not a big deal. Like there's no,
To walk through the store.
if you, yeah, like if you felt safe enough to walk into the store, like why do you need it loaded? It doesn't make sense to me. Um,
I feel that
and
scared to walk into a store. I'm not going to that store. Like
yeah,
that's the bottom line. Like if I feel so terrified to be in a store that I legitimately need a loaded gun, I don't belong in that store.
yeah,
So I will go somewhere else.
yeah. Yeah, and I appreciate the places that have those rules like that where they're like, please unload your gun when you come into this store, or and it's weird because like the conceal carry, I like it and I don't like it because it's terrifying to know that anybody around you could have a gun on them, but the concealed carry license I think is a lot more stringent than just getting a gun. So it's a weird thing where it's weird to think about. And you have the people that went in and they shot up Walmart and they just walked in with their guns. And I've seen people too, because I think the concealed carry, like there's no limit on the size. Like you could just be like, yeah, I have a license, so I can carry this, giant rifle around with me, just like out. Um, and that's weird. Like I don't know that I would feel comfortable if I like saw somebody.
Hidden.
I
And
didn't hear any of
open
that.
carry is where it's out in the open because there's different types.
Hmm.
So concealed means it's concealed, like it's hidden. You can't see it. And
Okay.
a lot of places prefer that you be a concealed carry rather than an open carry, just because of the fear of if you see someone walking in with a gun, you're like, why the hell has that person got a gun?
Yeah.
They have it concealed, you don't even know that they have it.
Yeah.
Which is one of those things, like you said, like I don't even know if I'm comfortable with this or not. Like
Yeah. Like I like it, especially in those cases.
and I don't even know who all may have a gun on them.
Yeah, and it's so helpful in those cases. Like I've seen the church shootings where there was somebody who came in and started shooting up a church, and the reason they were stopped, somebody that was in that church had a concealed carry gun and they shot that person before they could kill somebody. So in those cases, you're like, yes, that was incredible. I'm so happy that people have concealed carry guns. But it's such a weird thing to think about.
Like, I can't even imagine going to a normal store and taking my gun with me. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
no reason to take a gun with me.
Yeah. And I've debated getting a gun.
I'm one of those who's like, I want to be a good guy with a gun. Like, somebody walks up in there and is shooting, like, I'm not properly trained for that. Like, I'm not gonna know what to do. Like, I'm
Yeah.
gonna freaking hide like anybody else. Like,
Well,
I'm gonna
that's
be finding one of those ring clothing racks and sliding my little self in the middle of it and hoping to God the psycho doesn't see me. Like,
so that's actually something at my work that we discussed. So I work in security, and one of the things that is discussed is an active shooter situation. And they were like, we don't expect you to go and like take on a gunman if a gunman comes up here. Like, your safety is the priority. If you don't feel comfortable being that hero and like running up and stopping them or rushing to get people out, I mean, that's how it is. They're like, your safety is important, and you never know how you'll act in those situations either. But it was so comforting to know that, like, in a job like security, where you would think like I would be the person that would be stopping the gunman, that my company is like, you don't have to. Like, your safety matters. We care that you are safe. If you don't feel like you can safely inform others, get people out, get out yourself. And it's so nice.
yeah, I agree. Because there's just that whole, you don't know how you're gonna react.
Yeah.
Like, you can plan it out, you can think that you know, but until that happens, you don't know.
No. And even still in the moment, you can just have that like burst of courage where like you're hiding in the rack, and then you're like, I see somebody and I'm gonna pull them in here, even though I know there's, an active shooter and they could see me. You never, yeah, it was just a super weird law, and just all of it.
I had
Oh,
a weird incident once. So I used to work at a large chain corporation, retail large chain, and I worked in inventory management. And so we had this guy that had been hired on, and I don't know if he just didn't like women telling him what to do, or maybe he just hated me, which is just as likely because I'm one of those people, you either love me or hate me.
yeah, I was like, you're pretty specific.
Around, like, there's no in between. Well, he hated me, needless to say. And so one morning we're going over the areas of inventory that each person's going to do. And he was really slow. So I give him the smallest section, and I was really fast. Like, I'm one of those people with my ADD. Like, I can rush and get more done than anybody else in a very short amount of time. But then the whole rest of the day, I'm pretty much just fucking off, not doing anything. Like, that's just, distracted by everything. And then I can, bam, knock everything out. So I gave him the smallest section so that I could finish. I feel like I even gave myself like an entire half of the store, and just like gave him this small section, and one of the girls that worked with us, a little bit of a bigger section. And then. So I was planning to knock mine out, then go help him because that smallest section was frozen that everybody hates. And it's really cold, but it's one of those sections because you're in the deep freeze of the store. Like, you have to go out every few minutes, because it's like
Yeah.
0 or negative something. I don't even know. So whoever does it ends up walking outside, coming back in, walking outside, coming back in. So you're not frozen. So I was like, I understand this section sucks, but it's the very smallest one we have today. If it wasn't cold, it would take you maybe 1 hour to do the whole thing, but because with it being cold, it's going to take a while. And I understand that. So I'm like, I'll come help you as soon as I'm done with all mine. He loses his shit on me, threatens to kill me, leaves the store.
Oh my gosh.
Leaves the store, tells customers he's going to come back and kill that bitch, then comes back. They have to call the police. They had me hiding in a bin in the back of the store.
No.
He was searching the store for me. I swear to God. It was
Oh my God, that's horrifying.
my experience. Like, it was.
Yeah.
because they didn't know if he had a weapon on because he left.
Yeah.
They didn't know if he had a weapon on him. Like it was, oh my God. And they're like, just go hide somewhere. So I'm hiding behind inventory in a bin in the back room, like trying not to breathe too loud. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my God, and I've got like a little girl at home and I'm just thinking, all because I gave him a section he doesn't want to count. Like, fucking kidding me? He's lunatic.
Mm-hmm.
So then, like for I don't know, for a few days, like I was escorted home and to make sure he wasn't following. Like it was
Yeah.
pretty crazy. It was such a psycho. Like I don't know what
I
I.
had I
But it,
had somebody I had somebody not work related, but it was somebody that I was casually seeing. And he'd been over to my house a few times. He had like a violent past, and I knew that, but I was, giving him a chance. Like he hadn't been violent with me, he hadn't given any signs that he would be. Totally fine. Um, and I liked it being casual, and he wanted it to be not casual. He wanted to date me. And I explained to him, I was like, hey, I'm not comfortable with that. I want this to be casual. I don't want to date. And he lost it. And he was like, you don't know what you want, and I know what you want, and stop being afraid, and you're doing this. And I was like, okay, so that's a little weird. I'm gonna, just stop talking to you. So I do. And he's calling me, and he's messaging me, and he's not stopping, but I didn't block him because I thought it was better to know what was in his head as opposed to blocking him and have no idea, because this is the person that knows where I live. So I had gone on a vacation. I'm out of town in Florida, and I get a text message to my phone that says, I've been telling my friends about you, and they know where you live, and they're not happy with the way that you've been acting. And I've never been more happy to be out of a state, but I was terrified because I did have a roommate at the time. And I was like, I was like, if you ever contact me again, I will go to the cops, because I didn't want to go to the cops right away, but I knew if I said cops, because of his prior records, he would back off. So I felt comfortable with that. But it was so horrifying that, like, I had a situation where I politely turned somebody down, and they told people about me and told them where I lived. And then he felt the need to tell me that people were going to come to my house and teach me a lesson. And it was just the most horrifying thing that I've ever experienced. And I was just like terrified, because I'm like, I don't know this person well enough to know what he's going to do. And like, it's exactly like you, it's like hiding in your house. And like, I got back, and I'm just like really paranoid and walking around, and you never know with people.
Yeah, yeah, it's a very uneasy feeling.
Hmm.
Well, that guy was crazy. Like before he left the first time, he was like when he went out of the office we were in, the door auto locks whenever you go out. So he leaves the office door and then he comes back screaming and yelling, like banging on the door and can't get in. And the HR manager lady was in there with us at the time, and she's like, no, we're not unlocking the door. Like, are you insane? And she's like calling for managers, but trying. So she's on the walkie trying to get the
Yeah.
manager to come. They're like, we're in a meeting. What's going on? And she's like, I really need you to come here now.
Yeah. You're like, I can't exactly say what's happening, but if you could just,
What's going on? And she's like, could someone just please come in here right now?
you're like, read the tone.
Because people all over the store have the walkie,
Yeah.
and trying not to broadcast, hey, we've got some psycho on the loose. We
That's
don't.
what, yeah, we had a couple, we had some of those when I worked in retail, of you had your specific codes that you would call out, so that you could alert other people of the issues, but you also had to know the code.
Was that he wasn't shooting. He hadn't done
Yeah.
a bomb threat. He hadn't kidnapped anyone. So I don't know that there was really a code for just
No.
there's just a psycho. Like there needs to
I
be a
would,
psycho code.
I would love a psycho code, because when I worked in retail, I mean, there were so many instances where I'm like, I really need somebody to be here right now, but I can't convey that properly because I'm being screamed at by a customer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so glad I'm out of retail. It's terrifying.
It is.
I worked customer service, so I had people yelling at me all day long, um and like most of them you can handle it, but then a couple of them you're like, please, just like, I need a minute. Like, please don't yell at me.
Yeah, I could always take the yellings and stuff. Like I'm one of those that like it doesn't even bother me. Like you can completely cuss me out and all that, but he was terrifying. Like he was
Oh, I can't even imagine what you were feeling right there.
kill me. Like
Yeah.
chill. Like you really need some weed or something. Like chill the fuck out. Like
Yeah, like you were told to do your job and
yeah,
you just
it's your
you
job.
don't like it.
No, but like the reason I say that I don't know if it was like a he didn't like women because he's like I'm not listening to what some girl
Yeah.
tells me to do, you know, shit like that. And so it was like, oh my god, come on.
Yeah, I hate that we're still dealing with that in this day and age. You're like, if you don't want to be told what to do by a woman, act up. Like
With the pride,
be a better employee. If you don't want to be like told what to do by a woman, then work harder than she does and
right?
be promoted. Like
Yeah,
that's the option. Like you didn't just walk into the store and be like, I'm the manager now and just be like a
yeah,
crappy employee. Like you worked hard to get where you were. And if he had also applied himself, maybe, I mean, he obviously wouldn't, but you know, it's like if you don't like it,
I wasn't even the boss. Like it was just so like our boss was off on Sundays and Wednesdays, and when he was off, I
mhm,
was like the next in charge. So
yeah,
on Mondays off, you know, I would assign everything. But so it wasn't even like I was his boss. Like I'm just the
yeah.
fill-in person when the boss isn't there. Like chill out. It's not
And
even
you're
a
like, I'm just the person in charge right now.
like it's not that big of a deal. Like do you and I feel like I'd even like offered, okay, do you want to do the whole other side of the store? I mean, I'll trade you. Like it's fun.
Yeah, I've done inventory and it's not fun. And I've seen those people like go around with their scanners and just watching them and it's an all day process. And like when you have like a 6 hour inventory, you're like, yes, it only lasted 6 hours. And you know, we've had 10, 12 hour inventories and I didn't work at like a giant store either. So it was crazy.
I do inventory every single day.
Yeah, I couldn't have done that.
It would pull random things for us to count. So it was kind of like a spot checking type thing,
Okay.
or if like a department manager put in the wrong number with what the computer had when they were counting, then they would pop up for things for us to count. You know, so we would have to check the back inventory and out on the floor, and you know, try and see where the issue was. So
So
yeah,
going,
that job was what convinced me I needed to go back to school.
yeah, I can imagine.
It's like, fuck this job. Fuck this shitty ass pay. I'm
Yeah.
there were so many
I
suggestions I offered that would make life so much easier at that place. And they'd be like, well, that's not how we do it. Well, then let's change it because this is stupid.
when I right before I end up leaving retail, I had my own tiny store. It was like 4 aisles. And it was in a mall. And I got sent to that store specifically because they were struggling. And it was basically like you go to the store and you can either fix it or it closes. And I thought that was the option, but apparently it was going to close either way, and nobody told me.
Yeah.
But I went there, and the people that worked there, they didn't want to do any changes. And I would tell them, I'm like, you know, this is how we did it in the big store. And they're like, well, we're not the big store. And I'm like, right. But your store is also failing. So maybe if you do this thing that works in the big store, maybe it'll work and we'll get more sales and we'll, you know, be able to stay open. And I was upfront with them. I was like, they are planning to close the store. If we can get our sales up, if we can, you know, be better, maybe we can stay open. But you know, you've got to work with me. And they didn't want to. And so I knew that my position was safe. And as soon as I realized that they weren't going to work with me, and I was like, I had myself as a store manager and then two assistant managers and I think like three employees. So it's not a big store, but I'm like, if I have my two assistant managers that just flat out do not want to do the things, I mean, I'm out there all day. I can only do so much. So I went, okay, that's fine. Then I guess the store is going to close, and I let them continue running it how they wanted. And that store closed, and it ended up closing quicker than it should have
Yeah.
because it just wasn't profitable. And it was specifically because they were like, we're different. We can't do changes. We can't make changes. No, that's what you got to do. You have to adjust. You have to adapt. You have to try new things.
Right.
Like get creative.
Like everything has to change
Yeah.
or it dies out. That's just how it is. Like you either change with the times or there's not going to be a place for you. I mean,
No.
that's reality.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't like change. There's a lot of things I don't like change. but like you just have to. That's just part of it. And
Yeah.
change is good because then you don't end up, in a stagnant situation where it's, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
change, people need to,
Yeah. Like I also hate change.
not a big deal.
Yeah. It's scary and it's new, but
Change, leave your home life the same. Don't change it. But when you are having to adapt to how society changes, how sales change, like with malls, I mean, because malls are,
yeah.
there's just not a place for malls anymore. Like, let's be real. I mean, it's just not, especially with, COVID now and how that's, I think that COVID in itself, even if we completely get rid of COVID and it's not an issue, I think it's really made us all wake up to how easily germs spread and how communicable, is that the word?
Yeah.
Are, and how quickly it can spread. So, like, if another virus is, or if it was, like a nuclear warfare type thing, like it can spread that fast. Like,
Yeah.
this isn't something that's, you know, I think it's taught us how fast something can spread when it's introduced the right way.
It's
So,
interesting too with that, seeing like how quickly things spread and blowing out birthday candles. It was a gross, everybody knows it's a gross concept, but
yeah,
we're okay with it. But now COVID, you're like,
cake with your candle that's for you and you only. We're not doing a big cake for you to
yeah,
slobber all over the whole.
yeah, please don't spit all over all of our cake.
Like, it's just changed things. And so, like, malls were already dying out. And now it's like there's just not a place for a mall. And it's that whole, millennials are killing the malls. And it's like, no, times have just changed. We have online shopping now, and unless it's a bra that I need to go try on, like I would prefer to just buy online, even with the risk of this may not fit me. Like, I
Yeah,
don't have to leave to go to it. And then we live in a world where people work multiple jobs. They don't have time to go browse at the mall. Like,
yeah,
let's be real. Like, when we have our off time, of people that have to work all the time, they don't want to spend it, 3 hours in the mall to find one new shirt. I can lay in my bed and binge watch TV and shop at the same time. I don't have to drive somewhere, find the parking spot, go through all that. Like, we just ain't got time for that.
I have a store that I shop at that I shop online, and I know my sizes for that store, and I'm paying more than I would shopping in another store, but I know every single thing that I order from them, it will fit.
Yeah.
And it's gotten to the point where they offer me free returns. So it's even easier because I'm like, oh, you're just going to ship me, like, you'll give me a label so I don't even have to pay if it doesn't work. Why would I ever go into a store again? It's so much easier. And the mall by me, they're actually revamping it. We've lost all but one of our anchor stores. Every mall has all of their anchor stores, and we had 3 of the 4 closed, and a bunch of vacancies in the mall. And they're redoing it to like condos that go into the mall, and like really like a Main Street feel, which is cool because I love the Main Street feel.
Like Branson, Missouri. Have you ever been there? Like,
I have not.
they have like that open mall feel. Like, I like the open type malls where there are the condos and the restaurants, and they're not just like a mall court,
Yeah.
food court thing. It's actual restaurants, like it's right on a river, so you can like take a boat ride and stuff. So, I mean, there's stuff to do. Like, it's not just a mall just for shopping. Like, there's other things you can do. And
Yeah.
that's more and that's more of like a tourist type thing too. It's like, I'm not, if we had that in this town, I would never go to it. Like, I'm going to be honest, I would never go to it. But when I'm traveling, I want to do that.
I actually took a vacation years ago to Mall of America specifically because it's Mall of America. I mean, they have a roller coaster inside of it, and they have like, I think they have like multiples of the same store because it's so huge. Like, there's an alpaca store where all the stuff is like made of alpaca products. They have 2 of them. You're like, I didn't even know I needed an alpaca store, but now you have 2. Um, but it's so crazy that, like, yeah, I've definitely done that. And if I had gone to Branson and I saw like a cool mall like that, I'd be like, oh, this is fun, like, let's go. And if you have like, I love the specialty shops too, because I grew up in an area where the downtown was just really, it was that charming, literally main street, really cute with all the individual shops. And that's where we hung out as teenagers. We would literally go and hang out on Main Street, and it was so nice and it was friendly and it was all local people and it was just nice. And that's, I like that malls are going to that kind of feel because it reminds me of when I grew up, and it reminds me of like just that like not corporate feel, because that corporate feel is just,
With
I
some
don't like it.
stores and
Yeah.
stuff in it that are not just all big main stores. Change. You just gotta
Yeah.
accept it. We had a pretty decent sized mall in the town right next to where I live, where there's university and everything. And last year, unfortunately, we had tornadoes come through and destroyed it. So other than Target on one end and Dillard's on the other, I think everything else is pretty well closed from the tornado. And then Dillard's, I think, closed for a while, and then they redid part of their store. Were able to reopen. And then, but Target didn't get hit somehow. But they're right next to Chick-fil-A, so I guess it was like a God stepping in and saving that end. I don't know. Whoa, you got to swerve a little bit there, bro. You can't go through that way. That's
I was
not
gonna say you can't touch the Target, and especially if there's a Chick-fil-A next to it. Like, where are people gonna go if they don't have Target?
right. I'm so glad Target wasn't here. That's literally the only place I ever go over there. I've went to Dillard's a couple of times. Like I took my sister to look at dresses, like when she had to get a dress for prom. I think it was prom or pageant. I don't remember now. But unless I had like something like that, like I didn't even go.
Yeah, there's no reason to.
It was only special occasions that I would go to the mall because there's just, or maybe for a pretzel, but that's about it. Like
I have gone to the mall for a pretzel. I actually, so the mall, there's a mall by me that in their food court they have bourbon chicken, and nobody makes bourbon chicken. There was like one Chinese food restaurant by me that made it, but they closed because of COVID. So I will go to the mall by me specifically to get bourbon chicken. And that's my entire process. I park right next to the food court. I go in, I get my chicken, I get out, I go home. Like that's
go to any stores. Like I say, I wouldn't go to any stores. Occasionally, we'd go to Barnes and Noble for Lillian. Like she liked to go there. But I mean, even now, like I mean, you just
I have
order online. You don't have to
yeah.
go.
I bought a Kindle, and I have so many books on my Kindle, and I'm one of those people that loves the physical feel of books. And it was such a weird adjustment where I'm like, I don't want a Kindle, I want a physical book. But they're like, no, you need a Kindle, because you can't be dragging all of your books around. And what happens when you finish your one book? Now you have to bring a second book. And what if you don't want to read that book? Well, my Kindle, I have 50 books available to me right now. So if I like start reading and I'm like, oh, I don't like this one, I can just switch. And there's
Go ahead.
so convenient.
I've been wanting to try Audible. Like I've listened to one story on Audible before a long time ago. And I have the issue of with my ADD, it's hard for me to read and comprehend what I'm reading because I'm too focused on reading that I don't soak in what I'm reading. So I'm really thinking about actually trying Audible and so I can listen to the stories. So I can just lay back and close my eyes and picture the story in my head and not have to be thinking about I'm reading. And then there was that. Did you see that one link I had posted about how some people don't have an inner monologue?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that's made me really question that because like even as I'm reading, unless I'm imagining someone in particular reading to me, like I don't hear a voice in my head.
Well,
It's,
see,
so I just know the words. Like I don't even hear my own voice in my head talking. It's just like I just know it. I can't
so
even.
something that I do and that I've noticed that I do, I think like a writer. Like before things come out of my mouth, I will think about like the proper way to say it, and I'll have that like internal monologue where I will text messages. I'll think about multiple times in my head, and I'll be like, okay, if you switch this word here and this word here, and then I'll read it to myself in my head, and then I'll type it out and I'll read it again. But I have done that for years where everything that I say and I do, I can hear it in my head before I go. So hearing that people don't have that, I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
that's so weird.
It's like I have an inner monologue, but I don't hear it. It's like
Yeah.
it's like just something I sense. I don't. Like I don't attribute it to my ears and hearing. Like I don't
Yeah,
hear it.
like a general feel of what you're going to do. No, I have like a physical like voice in my head that tells me what to say before it comes out.
Yeah, and see, I don't really have that. So I end up saying stuff I shouldn't say, which is why I say people either love me or hate me. It's
Yeah.
very hard for me to not say what's coming from my mind because that's how I express it. I don't say it in my head first, it just comes out, and I
Yeah,
tend
I love that. I love that about you. Like that's one of my favorite things about you.
thank you.
You're welcome. Because it's nice because you always know where you're at with you. Like
Yeah.
the people that that are quiet and reserved, like you kind of know, but you don't really know. But if something bothers you, you're going to know. Like
Yeah. Yeah. And in my gaming crew, I've even, because a lot of girls don't stick around in gaming crews. Um, and so they would kind of tiptoe over what they'd say around me. Or if I snapped at them, they would be, oh my God, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to offend you. I'm like, I'm not offended. Like, I treat y'all like my brothers. Like, if my brother was to piss me off, I'd be like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, don't fucking piss me. What the hell? Why are you being a dumbass? Like, stop. Like, it's not
yeah,
that I don't like you. It's not that I'm offended by you. It's that I just say what I think. It just comes out. And if I think you're being a dumbass, I'm going to say, quit being a dumbass. Like, what the hell? But in the same sense, like I want you to treat me that way. Like if I'm being a
yeah.
dumbass, be like, hey, Lindsay, quit being a dumbass. Like, okay, you're right. I was being a dumbass. I'm sorry. you know,
It's nice too to have that because like sometimes you don't know until somebody's like, all right, just
yeah.
slow it down.
Right. I was gonna say something. Oh, about the when I'm thinking of like what to say, like I tend to like I write it out in my head is what I do. Like I don't say it, like I write it. And so like Lillian catches me doing it a lot of times. Like I'll be sitting here like doing this because I'm thinking of something in my head. So I'm writing it with my hand.
Okay, so there's the difference because when I do it, I see myself talking. So you
Yeah, I
see
don't.
yourself writing, I see myself talking.
Yeah, I'll see myself writing. And so like I physically see the words in my head
Yeah,
instead of hearing them. Like I'll see them. Like even like as I'm reading something, like I'm picturing the word in my head and like soaking that word in like as a sense instead of and so like if I'm reading a book, and then that's another issue is when I'm reading, I catch every grammatical error, every misspelling, and the best editor in the world could have went through it. I'm going to find an issue.
yeah.
And it's just like it's bing, like a bright ass light. And I'm like,
So I actually didn't
I
download a
went
book.
to the van. Like what the hell?
One of the things that Kindle does is they tell you when there's grammatical errors. So I was reading a book series and I was about to download the fourth book because I'm like, I got to finish the series. And I went to Kindle and they're like, there are multiple grammatical errors in this book, and we have alerted the publisher, but they haven't been corrected yet. And I'm like, do I really want to download this book if I know that it has like obvious errors that multiple people have caught? And I did end up downloading it because I'm like, I just want to be done with the series because I was like in and out of it of like, do I like the series? Do I don't? And I was like, there's only two books left. Just download the book and finish it. But it was one of those things where I was like, I don't know if I can read it if it has too many grammatical errors.
So I have two different books. So I've been trying to read Jonathan Barrett, Gentleman Vampire. I've been reading this book for years on and off. I'm not even kidding. And I love it, but it's like multiple books in one. It's like the
Okay.
whole series all in one big book. And so I usually get through like the first book of it. And then something happens and I end up, too busy and I don't ever finish it. And I really want to finish this book like so bad. Um, I've recently restarted it. Me and my friend Yassine, we're going to start reading it. So, like, I ordered him the book and had it sent to him. And it's like, we're going to read this book. I've got a copy. You've got a copy. We're going to read this. And we just never have. We started it, but never have. And I really want to read it. It's such a good book.
I read too fast. So like I'm constantly finishing books and then just starting more. Like I went through I'll typically do 1 to 2 books a week when I'm reading at like my prime. Um and I do it too much. So like nobody ever like keeps up with me. So I'm always just like alone with my thoughts on all of my books. Like I would have loved to like have a book club, but I finish a book and then I'm like, what do you mean we're only reading the first half? Like, no, I'm done. I have thoughts.
Yeah.
I can't, but I have
When I really dedicate myself, like the Twilight series, when I read those way a long time ago as they were coming out, before the movies and everything, like I read those, like I didn't stop till I was done. Like front to
I
back, didn't stop.
that was Hunger Games for me. And this was before Kindle and online things, or it was at the very start of Kindle, because I remember I finished the second book and I immediately was like, I need the third. And it was like 2 a.m. And I'm like, I need the next book. This just ended and I'm not prepared and I wasn't expecting this and I need it. And I'm like, I need somebody to find me an all night bookstore. And then I did end up ordering it online as a download, and I started reading it, but it was one of those things where I'm like, I can't put down, I have to finish.
Yeah.
I didn't read the Twilight books though.
So the Twilight books, there's Midnight Sun, I think is what it's called, that I
Mhm.
ordered back in August. Oh, that was the book. Did you ever see that where I had, so, when the postal service was super slow and everything. So I ordered this book. I pre-ordered this book. Okay. And like, I have to really like books for me to be a pre-order
Yeah.
of a book. Like I love to read, but I'm really bad at it. Like I'm a good reader. I'm just like, it's hard for me
Yeah.
to comprehend. Like it's just, I get so distracted. So I was like, I can't wait for this book. Oh my God, I've waited so long for a new Twilight book because I'm one of those dorks that's a Twilight fan. And so it was supposed to be like 2 day shipping or whatever, once it was released. It took like 3 weeks to come in on the 2 day shipping. And I'm like, oh my God, it finally gets here. And this is when I was still staying at the office apartment. So I get the book and open the book up. And I'm on my bed and I take the book out and baby ants go everywhere.
No.
Ants. I was like, I'm swearing it was the most disgusting thing. Like wads of them are going everywhere. They were all in the book. Like it was so bad. From where that damn package had been sitting at the post office, I guess.
Oh my gosh.
Forever.
That's weird though, that like ants would be attracted to a book.
Yeah, I don't know what was going on, but I was one of those people that got a special surprise in my package. It said at the post office distribution center or packaging center or whatever the hell the place is. I don't know, but yeah, and I knew it had been sitting there because I was watching it, on my tracking.
Yeah. Every single time, refreshing.
In Tennessee for like ever, and I'm like, where's my book? I'll go pick it up. I think it was like in Memphis, and I'm like an hour and a half from Memphis. I'll just go pick the damn thing up. Like, can I just come pick it up out of this big warehouse? Like, I'll do that. I don't care.
Yeah. I've done that exact same thing. I'm like watching things and I'm like, why did you create this shipping label and it's ready for USPS, but it's been a week and they still don't have it? Where's my package? I hate it. It drives me nuts.
And right now, I'm waiting on my Quip Talk shirt.
Yep.
And it's been sitting in Ohio for 2 days. And I'm like,
so
but I know that there's snow everywhere.
Okay, so mine's worse. So mine is sitting in Chicago, which is 40 minutes from me. And it got there yesterday or Friday, and they still said you aren't going to get until the 24th. And I'm like,
it said by the 23rd, I think. It said it was supposed to be here today, and now it says by the 23rd.
It was crazy because I was like, but it's in my state. It's an hour away from me. Why is it still going to take, what's today, the 21st? Why is it still going to take 3 additional days after it's already been there for 2 days to get to me? Like, just give me my shirt.
Yeah. They should have that option to go pick up your stuff. Like if you have your receipt and your confirmation, you should be allowed to go pick them up.
They do kind of. So I've had a couple packages. So the online store that I order all my clothes from, bless my mailman's heart, like I appreciate it, but it also drives me nuts. They have a note on all the packages that says, if no answer, just leave it. My mailman will not do that. He cares very deeply that I get my clothing orders, and like because I get free shipping from them because I know my sizes and they send me all these sales. I've ordered 3 different times in a week before. Like, so I'm just constantly getting stuff from them. And he won't leave it. So it goes back to the post office and they're like, they leave you like the notice and they're like, you can come to the post office and get it, or you can make arrangements. And I'm like, please don't make me go to the post office. Just leave my package. Like, if it gets stolen, it gets stolen, but it probably won't. But yeah, that's
Cars get left, but I live, a smaller town. I think it's like 35,000 people. And then my neighborhood is mostly elderly people for the most part. There's a couple of other people with kids, but it's mostly elderly people. And then we live, on 4 acres and it's back off the road. And so ours, he just leaves them out here.
yeah.
Only
Well,
issue, I tell them to leave it by the back door. And sometimes they'll put it on the front porch and we don't use the front door. So
oh yeah.
I'll sometimes, until I check my shipping, like when I forget I've ordered something and I'm like, where the hell is that at? And I'm like, oh my God, it's in the front porch. And it's probably been there for days.
Yeah, I'm in an apartment, so like the building will sometimes accept it, but for some reason, like the mail comes at the exact same time every day. But for some reason, like sometimes the office just doesn't feel like being there at that time. And I'm like, and I asked about it once and they were like, well, we have errands to run. I was like, what errands? You work at like my building, like your job is to be sitting here to like
Yeah, you're like the
get
front
packages.
person.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't understand that, but like, whatever. If you have errands, I'm like, but if you have errands to run, why would you run them when you know that the postman's gonna need to get in here? Like, just be here during that time frame. But it's been nice with COVID because I have been able to pick up all my packages. But the time that my mail comes is in the time that I'm getting ready to go to work. So when they come with the packages, I have to like stop getting ready and go downstairs and get my package because they won't leave it, and then come back upstairs and keep getting ready instead of just like grabbing it on my way out.
Yeah. So at Christmas time, when I was sending out some Christmas cards, I actually sent out a few Christmas cards this year, which is a huge deal for me.
Oh yeah.
I hate always bringing in my ADD, but it really does affect like everything in my life. So I never follow through with my Christmas cards. Like I will get them all done and I will have everything signed, stamped, ready to go, and then I'll forget to drop them off. Or like some step gets forgotten.
Do Christmas in July every year.
Yeah. Well, actually, with COVID and everything, I was like, I'm not going to be seeing anybody like I normally would. I'm sending these cards out. Like I'm going to do it. And so, some of my cards that were shipped like overseas arrived before ones here in the States. And I'm like, how did that even happen? Like this had to be flown across the ocean and then just go through customs and, and that got there quicker than this one 2 hours from my house.
Yeah.
This doesn't even make sense.
I had one that was the reverse. It was coming. I ordered a mask. So for Halloween, I have this like lion costume. And I wore it a couple years ago. And I did my makeup all cute because it wasn't COVID. So I could. And this year I'm like, well, I'm not buying a new costume because nobody's doing anything. But like on the off chance that somebody does that, I'm like, I can just rewear this. And I was like, but I need a mask because I have to have a mask now. And I'm like, I don't want to do a black mask. So I found one that had a lion face on it. And I was like, oh, this is perfect. So I order it from online. I ordered it in the beginning of September. They're like, it will be here by October 6th. And I'm like, awesome. That's plenty of time to be here, even if it's delayed. Didn't show up on October 6th. And because it was overseas tracking, they're like, it gets there when it gets there. Like it just, it's whatever. So in like the middle of November, I get a random package in my mailbox and it was like from Malaysia or something. And I was like, well, I didn't order anything from Malaysia. So I thought it was one of those phishing scams where they just like send you random stuff. Yeah. So I opened it, totally forgot that I ordered this mask. It's my mask. And I was like, well, it's useless now, but I was just like in my car with all my other ones for like, I randomly will just like, which mask do I want to wear today?
I have a bunch of them hanging on my gear shifter.
Yeah.
Like I'll have like one ear flap over the gear shifter and just have like a whole collection of them.
Yeah.
Just grab whichever one, occasionally bring them in and wash them.
So I love conspiracy theories. My favorite one is an Avril Lavigne one, and it's I like it partially because Avril Lavigne was my very first concert, and I heard the story, and it was just the most wild thing, and I love it. Um, so essentially, they believe that Avril Lavigne committed suicide in I think 2004, 2004, sometime in the 2000s, like right when it was after her first album. I think she had recorded her second album, and it was after her I think her grandfather, she was very close to one of her grandparents, that person passed, and they said that she could not deal with his passing because they were so close, and she had committed suicide. Now Avril Lavigne is a very private person, and she openly had a body double that would do events, and this woman's name was Melissa, and they had been training Melissa to do these events for her so that she didn't have to go, to mimic her speech, mimic her singing, all that stuff. So essentially, what people believe is that Avril Lavigne committed suicide and Melissa just stepped in and took in her role. Now, what's interesting about this and why people think this is there are a few facial uh, disparities where like she had a mole and now she doesn't, and she did this and she did this, but also her music style changed. So she went from being that kind of like edgy, dark music to a pop punk princess, and her look changed and everything about her changed. So that's why people were like, yeah, we definitely don't think that this is the same girl that wrote this album. And what was interesting is a few years ago, the person that started this rumor came out. It was a creator for BuzzFeed, and they said that they accidentally started it when they were on a vacation as a joke. They were on vacation. They had accidentally made a post that was like, "Oh, Avril Lavigne, killed herself. That's actually Melissa," and they had continued about their vacation and not thought a second thing about it. And they came home to it being a full-blown conspiracy theory with people doing photos next to each other, comparing the voices, doing all of the science stuff related to it, and just absolutely, this is not Avril, this is Melissa, this, you're wrong, and I won't hear anything of it. And even though this person came out and they were like, it was a joke, I'm so sorry, everyone, like I didn't mean it, it was, it wasn't a real post, people are still like, they're being paid to say that.
Yeah.
And it's just so, that one's my favorite, and it will never get old.
I'm gonna have to look this up and do some research and see if I think it's really Avril or if it's the body double.
Yeah. I mean, I believe it either way, because you have the musicians that like their style does change. But it also
maybe depression changed her too, though. Like it could be because how they say, a lot of comedians are some of the most depressed people because they're, putting on that front and they want to make other people laugh because that's the only way that they feel, purpose and stuff through their depression. So, maybe that's why her style changed and was more poppy and stuff, was to, cloud over the depression and stuff she was feeling. So
so it's definitely, it's an interesting one. And it's one that every time it resurfaces, I always read everything related to it. So I love it so much because I love Avril Lavigne. I think she's fantastic. And I love her music. She was my first concert. She was headlining, and Boys Like Girls was the opener, and I still love both bands. So then every time I see it, I'm like, it reminds me of being like 16 or 17, whatever, like at an Avril Lavigne concert. So excited.
My first concert was Tim McGraw and Faith Hill when I was in junior with my dad, my stepmom, and my aunt and uncle. That's where I went.
That's a good one.
Yeah. I didn't really like country.
Yeah.
But I had fun. Like I had a good time. I like Faith Hill. Like I've liked her. So
I like Tim and Faith because they've been together.
Yeah, they do. The first one that I went to without parents was Bush and Moby. It was the like campus invasion tour through MTV. So I went to that one. And then I've seen my favorite band to see live. Like I've seen like on one of those concert websites, like I created an account. I was trying to think back all the different concerts. Like I've been to so many, like I've seen like over 100 bands, but
oh my gosh,
my favorite band to see is Coheed and Cambria, like hands down.
Okay.
One thing I like is that Claudio doesn't, like, he plays from the time he comes out on the stage until it's over. I don't know if it's like a bit of social anxiety or something, so he doesn't normally talk very much. But when he does, it's like a huge deal because he doesn't talk. So
Well, I went to a concert a few years ago, and because the singer talked, it actually ruined the entire experience for me. So it was actually I saw Poison. I love Poison, and I was excited to see him because I've never seen Poison live. I follow tribute bands in my area, and a Poison tribute band is one of the ones that I follow. And my friend was like, "Do you want to go to the actual concert, see them?" I'm so excited. I'm like, "Yes, let's do this." So they only had an hour set because they were co-headliners. So it was already a little bit less than I was expecting. And then Bret Michaels talked through all of his songs. So he'd be singing and then he would just stop and start talking. And
oh,
it,
I'm singing this with you. I don't know
yeah,
what you're gonna say. You're ruining
yes.
this for
So
me.
it totally took me out of the moment where I'm like, wait, like he's talking. And now I'm like, I'm trying to listen, but like you're also still playing. And so he would go in and out, and it was just a flawless transition of like he'd be singing, then he'd be talking, jump back into singing and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And then and he does get a little wordy. And so I was after it, and my friend was she's a bigger Poison fan than I was, and she was all excited and she was like, "That was amazing, it was incredible." And I was like, he talked a lot, and I don't know because I've never seen Poison before. I don't know if that's like a normal thing for them, and I just like wasn't expecting it. But I specifically do not see big bands because they are typically a letdown for me. Because I love listening to like the music just constantly, and it doesn't sound the same when you're hearing it live. But there is something to be said for that like camaraderie of like every single person singing together. My top one is Motion City Soundtrack. So I love Motion City Soundtrack, and I've seen them live a couple times, and I love it every single time. And they're the only band that I've seen live that is like a popular band that I'm like, I will see you wherever you play, whatever.
Yeah, that's how I'm with Cody Cambria.
You know what? Steel Panther also puts on a great show. So I don't know if you know Steel Panther, but they're fun. They started out as an 80s like cover band, and they were kind of like mocking the 80s songs, and then they got into their own music, but they have like one of their songs is called Glory Hole, and I think they have another one called Asian Hooker, and they're just really raunchy, dirty songs, and their live performances incredible. Like that stage presence is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all about the stage presence.
So let's talk about that Poison tribute band that you follow,
Mhm.
Lily.
Yes.
So Megan actually took me to see them once when I was in Chicago. I got to go see them and had a great time. It was so much fun. They're really good. In fact, they're good enough. They're actually going to be on a show, aren't they?
They are. They're on Tribute Wars USA. I believe they're it's in April. And their band is called Dirty Talk, and they're from Chicago. They do a great show, and it's so fun to see them play. But yeah, they got to be a part of it, and it is tribute acts from all across the United States, and they go head to head. So they're up against another Poison tribute, and they're going to battle it out and see who's the top Poison tribute. And they have like tons of bands. Like I think there's a Guns N' Roses one, and I'm not super caught up on what they have, but they have tons of different ones, and they're planning season 2 as well. So they were looking for bands to do season 2. And it's just a battle of the bands and just like who's the best.
Yeah, it reminds me of like Battle of the Bands back in the day, when there was like Flicker Stick and those.
Yeah.
Really good. But no, Megan took me to see them. It was great. I like got to hang out with the actual band and feel like I was some special cool person. It was really neat. So much
That's
fun.
why that's why you got to follow the local musicians, because
Yeah.
I went to the Poison concert. I didn't get to meet Bret Michaels, but I go to the Poison tribute show, and I do get to meet the lead singer of that. And like
Yeah.
I've gotten drumsticks, and I've got like signed things, and like all of the tribute bands. I'm so excited. I saw There's a Guns N' Roses one. I don't think that they're still together.
When I went, there was it the Who that there
I
was a
think so.
tribute band? The guy was wearing like all white and had like the wind blowing on him when he comes in. Like
That's why the
they're
tribute.
legit, man. Like they're legit. Like these
Well,
tribute bands, like
yeah.
it's like you're at a real concert. Like
And that's the difference. So the tribute bands are where it's at, because the cover bands, it's just a bunch of people just like playing the songs. But the tribute bands, it's a full immersive experience where like their goal is to make you think that you are seeing that band. And there's something so cool about that. And they have them for everything. I see mostly 80s ones, but there's some pop punk ones that I want to see. And I follow a page that has them, and it's just tribute bands for anybody that you like, you can find a tribute band for. So especially for these bands that aren't touring, you still get to go and enjoy that music. And that's what I love. So
yeah,
I'll do that
it was
every
by
week.
far one of my favorite going to a concert experiences. Like it wasn't the actual band, but as far as getting to like hang out with the band and feel like I'm like hanging out with these famous people, even though I'm not, but it really felt that way. Like it felt so cool.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
was
there's
so much fun.
nothing compares to when like the band members like come up to you. And it's so fun too for when they recognize you, because I've gone to there's a cover band that I like called Stereotypes, and I love seeing them. I think that they're great because they'll do everything. They're the only band that I've ever seen that did 8 Mile and ride a what's the country song? Save a Horse, Ride a Cowboy. So
Yeah.
they did 8 Mile and Save a Horse, Ride a Cowboy and Pour Some Sugar on Me by Def Leppard. And they literally just do all of it. And it's fluid. And it's not like, okay, now we're doing 80s. No, they switch between it, and it's so high energy. And their singer switches out his glasses. And me and my friend were going to do a drinking game for that, because he switches them out, and we're like, let's do a drink every time that he does it. But you go to these shows, and even if you've just been to one or two, they'll recognize you, and they'll be like, oh, hey, you're back here, and like, welcome. And so like it makes you feel like you're super important. You're like, I matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I love like all of the live music and the low bands, because you never know too who's going to blow up. So like you could be seeing like these local bands playing in your bar, and then all of a sudden like a year from now they're super famous, and you're like, I saw you in this dive bar and I thought you were incredible, and now you're selling out stadiums.
Well, and that's kind of like when I first saw Coheed and Cambria. Of course, it was after the like, first big hit had come out. But when I first saw them, the first two concerts I went to of theirs, they were like a year apart, but they were in Little Rock, and it was like just basically like the size of a gym. And they had a stage, and it was just standing only, and it's like concrete floor, just a little tiny room, and you're just like so close to them, and it's just people moshing and having a good time. It was so much fun. And then the second time when I went, it was the exact same place. It was a year later. And the night before, I had like hurt my knee, and so I have Ehlers-Danlos, and so I have dislocations all the time. And I had dislocated my knee and torn a ligament. So I was on crutches the second time that I went. And I'm in the standing only mosh pit, and I have crutches. And when I went to the doctor that day before leaving for the concert, I was like, does this mean I can't go to my concert because it's standing only? And he's like, oh, what concert are you going to see? I was like, Coheed and Cambria. And he's like, was it a rock concert? I was like, yeah. And he's like, then I would definitely still go. Like if it's a rock
Yeah,
concert,
you got to
don't
use
miss
them
that.
crutches.
And I was like, okay, good. I got doctor's approval. No, it actually came like to my advantage and the people around me, because there was this drunk dude that was like, and just like falling on people and like knocking their cups out of their hand, pissing everybody off. And he fell on me, and I was like, security guys, security. I'm on crutches and he's falling on me. And so they escort him out, and everyone's like, thank you so much. Like, anytime.
That's the worst, when you go to those shows and you just have those people. You're like, all right, I get it. We're all here having a good time, but like,
we're not here to have a good time. But
be polite.
like he was so drunk he couldn't stand, and was just like falling on everyone. And
I had somebody pour an entire drink on me at a bar one time, and I was like, How did you pour an entire full drink?
Yeah.
Like, why are you so close to me?
Yeah. No, it's anyway, so local musicians. So I think my favorite local one is Skinny Powers, if anyone's ever
I
heard of
follow
them.
him because of you.
They're like great. Like they're so great. They're really, really good live. Um, and then the guitarist of the band I went to college with, we studied philosophy together, and we met in philosophy of sex of all classes. But we took that course together and became friends. We've stayed. He's one of my best friends now. Like we've stayed friends for years and years, because that was probably 2011, 2012, so almost 10 years now. But uh, no, he's a wonderful musician and he's the guitarist. He doesn't do the singing, but they're great. Like they have some really good songs. They're like on Apple Music, they're on Spotify. Like you can listen to them on any of those. Um, and I think they've actually been in the studio doing some new stuff. So
Ooh.
either that band or his other new band he's making.
Yeah, because everybody's always in multiple bands. I have a friend like that too that I've also known forever. I knew them when they were in Tomorrow's Alliance, which is still an active band. But it was these two brothers, and they just like make music together, and they had like so much. And I love the band so much, and I would go to the shows, and they were the first band that I ever worked for because I liked their music so much, and I had known one of the singers through a mutual friend at college that that I was like, oh yeah, like I'm gonna go and support your band. I had shirts made. They did not have merch. I made a shirt, and I made one for me and a girlfriend because I'm like, please don't make me be the only loser in a handmade shirt for these people's band. I'm like, I don't know them that well,
Yeah.
but I made it, and they were so nice. And like their dad managed them and did the filming, and I became like really good friends with the family, and they're like the nicest people. And I still go to their shows, and I still like I see them all, and they're all so excited to see me, and I'm just as excited to see them. And so Tomorrow's Alliance is still active. And then the person I knew from college, he's in another band right now that's up and coming, Lucky Falls. So
Mhm.
they just put a couple songs on Spotify, and I did see them live right before COVID hit. So I was like so excited because I love supporting them, and I don't see too many independent bands, but I was like, oh, he's playing, and I actually don't hate this bar, so I'm gonna go to this bar. And I saw incredible, just absolutely incredible. And it's the same thing, like you see them and they're like, oh my god, you came, and you're like, yes I did. I'm here.
Yeah, that's how Chris was when I went and saw his band the first time in Memphis when they played at High Tone. He was like, "Hey, it's Lindsay," and like introducing me to everyone. I'm like, "Yeah, I know the band."
Yeah, and then you get to say that, you get to go, I know the band, and you get to be that person. That's my favorite thing. I'm like, I'm super pretentious, but it's fine.
But
You have your concert people, and a lot of them will do traveling to go and see one of my friends. She loves Warrant, and I love Warrant too. They're a fantastic band, and they're still touring, which is awesome.
yeah,
But she'll travel all over to see Warrant, and I'm like, well, I'll see them if they're in Illinois, but like I'm not gonna go out of state. But you have these concert friends that are like, hey, I'm gonna be in this state, and they're like, cool, that's where I'm gonna be too. And so you just meet up in different states with your friends, and you see them like at these concerts, and that's like your bond. It's so cool.